In this video, we're going to talk about how to take this hardtack that I made in the last video and kind of use it. And most of it is not going to involve me nibbling on this, but because I put so many holes in this, one of the extra things that it allows is it allows it to be broken into pieces a little bit easier. So, as you can see, this stuff is pretty densely packed, and it's not too airy, and there's not very much room. So it's going to require a couple things: soaking, smashing, crumbling, whatever. So this is not really there for, you to be happy with your food choices. It's there because it's out of necessity. It's not really all that great of a time having to live off this stuff. I mean, it's basically, you could build houses out of this stuff. It's like bricks. So basically, we're going to go ahead and mix this into a few things that people should probably have as preppers, and things like a Mountain House meal. I'm going to show you how to mix it into a Mountain House meal. Maybe some canned food and stuff to liven up the canned food, but the basic idea is we are going to add these calories to canned food. Now, the first thing to note before we start this off is a quarter cup of flour is 110 calories, and I used 1 whole cup. So I made 5 of these little biscuits, and I did nibble these edges because it's not all that bad. But anyways, for me, if I can break off little edges like this, I'll just nibble it as is. It's not too bad. But really, the best thing is if you get, I got 5 biscuits out of it. I could have made 4 bigger ones, and that would have split it into about 100 calories each. But we're looking at about 90 calories for each one of these. Maybe a little less for these that are broken into pieces, but generally speaking, what we're going after is also the vitamin content. There's a lot. There's going to be like 10% niacin, 10% riboflavin, thiamine, and stuff like that that's in each one of these because the flour had it in there. So that is a good thing about this hardtack, using enriched flours and stuff. And you can kind of experiment and stuff like that, but it has vitamins in it. That's a far cry from the old Civil War days where you're basically using the germ and everything of the wheat, the ground flour of the wheat, to make the hardtack. So that's pretty much what they were using, if I remember correctly. They were just using whole flour, and that's what they made the hardtack out of. Now, if you want it to last longer, you use white flour, basically bleached flour. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get started by first in mixing this stuff in with the Mountain House meal. Before we start the mixing process, I just wanted to talk about, since we're going to be adding this, let's look at the calories. This is the turkey casserole dinner. So you can see here, one package is going to have 480, almost 500 calories, and we're going to be adding, about 100 calories to this. So I'll just add all this to it, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to crush it up, and we're going to put it inside the Mountain House, and then we're going to boil it up. So let me go ahead and get to crushing here. Now, the reason you want to crush this up is if you're going to add it in, then you're going to want to crush it up pretty fine because you're going to add hot water to it. That'll soften it. The smaller the pieces are, the better the water is going to be able to reconstitute the flour and soften it up, because this thing's going to have to sit for about 10 minutes or what have you. So generally 10 minutes it should be enough time if this stuff is really small. But yeah, it's got so many holes in it that the structure is pretty weak. So typically, yeah, just a nice little bang on the counter is going to do good enough to break this up into smaller pieces. Give it a little angle and smash it again. But yeah, so the more holes, the better you're going to be able to break it up. So if you want some to mix into food or whatever, then yeah, make more holes in them to make them weaker. So yeah, that actually went into me. So yep, I'm just going to finish this all up, and we'll get back to you pouring it in. So now it's all crushed up. For the most part, there's still some chunks in here that are about this size. If they're bigger than that, probably want to break them down a little bit more, but yeah, that's pretty much as small as I'm going to be able to go. I mean, I was using the butt of my little hootenanny knife here, and just they were flying all over the place when I was trying to break them. So probably cover them with something to try to prevent that. But you know, brute force, whatever. So, anyways, this is the inside of the turkey casserole. So it's got little croutons in there. So we're going to add to that bread ration our hardtack. I'm going to put that in there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to shake this up. Now, some people would say, well, just leave it, you know, whatever. Well, here's another thing to consider is, you know, these Mountain House meals, they take a lot of water to reconstitute. Well, they take a lot more, they don't take that much water, but they leave a lot of water behind after they reconstitute. That's what I was trying to say. English is hard today. So, yeah, I gotta mix all this up, but I want my hardtack closer to the bottom than everything else, because it's gonna have to spend the most time with the hot water. So, I may be a little more lax in the amount that I give in here and the amount of time that this spends, you know, with the water in it, so it can have an opportunity to reconstitute a bit and soften up with the steam and all the heat build up in here. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get some water ready, and we'll go ahead and pour it in and see what happens after about 10 minutes. Okay, so now there's about 1 1/4 cup of water, and quickly close it up. Try to move some of this stuff from the bottom up a little bit. And of course, flip it over, or flip the top. Get as much water soaking the hardtack that's in there as possible. And then I will just let this thing sit on its back like so for about 10 minutes, and I'll try to keep the flap high so it doesn't leak everywhere. But yeah, go ahead and leave it for about 10 minutes, and we'll see where it's at. Typically you want to stir after 5 or so, but not me. I'm just going to leave it for 10 minutes, let it soak a little bit, and then I will open it up and we'll see how it does. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. I decided to open this up at about 5 minutes to say hello to the insides and see how it's doing, but here it is. There's really little to no moisture left over. So yeah, it actually might benefit from having a little bit more water in it, since I'm pretty sure that hardtack took whatever was left over. But let me go ahead and see how this piece is. This hardtack, there's a little piece right in there, if you can see that. So let's see how that is. No. It's still hard, but it actually is softened. But yeah, this is more like stuffing than a casserole, and it's fogging up the lens, of course. But it's actually doing pretty well, so I think what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and add some more hot water in here, and then I'll just go ahead and leave it for another 5 minutes, and we'll see how the hardtack does with that. But it's relatively dry. It's like I didn't put enough water in there, so I'm going to add a little bit more, probably about 1/4 to 1/2 cup. Let that go in. I hate to water this down, but you know what? It is kind of devoid of water, so there you go. Mix that in a bit. Scrape it away from the walls. And hopefully this will soften up the hardtack to an acceptable degree. And we'll give it about 5 minutes. Alright, so after 5 minutes, see how this piece is. You can see that piece on top. That's a piece of hardtack. We'll see how that is doing. And that's pretty well softened up now. It's that's pretty good. I think adding some spices to this would probably just make it perfect, but basically it's like a slightly waterier casserole, if you will. But yeah, it's not bad for freeze-dried meal, add a little bit of bread to it, and it adds to the nutrition and adds to the calories. You add at least a little bit over 100 calories to that, so it's not all that bad. If you want more bread, then add more bread. If you want some other stuff to put in there, obviously put it in there. But yep, that's how to include it into a mountain house. So. Okay, so we used 2 of the 5, well, most of the 2 of the 5 for that mountain house meal. So I have 3 left out of that 5. So instead of basically, spending more time, mixing all this stuff together, I'll just talk about it. So hardtack is basically you're taking the nutrition from this and adding it to other things, or just eating it as it is. As I said, the more holes you make, the better it's going to break apart. And you can break these up and put them in a sack or whatever in your pocket, and eat them as you go if you're on a hike, which is something I've done, and it's actually not that bad because obviously I add dry spices to them and they last a while. And if you wanted to add something to it because you're making it like the week before you actually go out on the hike, then whatever, add honey or whatever you want. But one of the things that you can do is you can actually add it to canned food if you're in a situation where food is actually tight. Heating up canned food is not going to be done in the microwave. It's going to be done on a stove. And my recommendation would be to add like 1/3 of one of these cans of water and one of these crushed up pieces of hardtack to kind of mix in with these soups. And also, like tomato soup is condensed soup, so you got to add a can of water. Well, typically I like mine a little thicker, so I will typically like either let it cook off and like evaporate off a lot of that water as it's cooking and heating up, or you can add something like hardtack, crushed up hardtack to it, and that's adding the nutrients and calories from the hardtack. Add as many as you want. Obviously, they don't take up really much room once they are crushed up. They can be smashed and pulverized into almost nothing, so it's not really much of a cost to you. And it really isn't going to affect the taste at all. And in fact, it'll actually make the taste better for the hardtack if you're kind of, if you're the type of person who misses a Snickers after 2 days. But, there's a lot of options, things you can do, but most of it involves soaking. So anything that you might have to mix with water, like soups or the mountain house meals, any freeze-dried foods or whatever, that would probably be the best thing to do. Or just crush it up and, gnaw on it a little bit. But yeah, that hardtack, it's not hard to find a use for it. It's a supplement to your diet, really. That's why you get like 10 of these, and it's only about 1,000 calories that you're getting, so you can make as much or as little as you want, I guess. But realistically, it doesn't hurt to have the ability to make it and make it in a way that makes sense for your situation. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and you guys have a good one.